Back in 2023, a paper from Stanford and Google dropped a question that would basically change how we think about AI. What if we could create an AI that doesn't just answer our questions, but actually lives a life? This is the story of Generative Agents, a project that didn't just talk about it, they actually built believable simulations of human behavior, and in doing so, gave us a whole new blueprint for creating autonomous AI. So, take a look at this. It might look like a simple video game, right? You've got characters going about their day. But, for decades, characters like these in games and simulations have been little more than puppets. They're just stuck in these repetitive loops, spouting the same scripted lines over and over. This paper just blew that whole idea up. It asked, what if these digital people weren't puppets at all? What if they had memories? What if they could make their own plans, build real relationships, and create their own complex social lives all by themselves?
Okay, let's get into it. First, we're going to unpack the big problem these researchers were trying to solve. Why digital characters have always felt so, well, fake. Then we'll take a trip to their digital society, a little town called Smallville. We're going to break down the brilliant architecture that makes it all tick, see what life was actually like for these agents, and finally, we'll talk about why this work is still so important today.
For years, creating believable artificial characters has been one of those holy grails for both game developers and AI researchers. And the challenge is just immense. I mean, how do you design an agent that acts consistently over a long period of time, reacts believably to stuff you never planned for, and navigates all these complicated social dynamics without a person behind the scenes writing every single line of code? This slide just lays it all out perfectly. On the one hand, you have your traditional NPCs, non-player characters. They forget things instantly, they're super repetitive, and their social lives are completely hard-coded. They can't form new relationships. Then, on the other hand, you have these generative agents. They actually remember their past. Their behavior emerges from their experiences, and they can form brand new relationships all on their own. The real game changer here is that shift from pre-programmed behavior to this emergent, memory-driven life.
So, to put their ideas to the test, the researchers didn't just write some theory. No, they built an entire world. They created this digital sandbox, a small town they called Smallville, and they populated it not with scripts, but with agents designed to think, remember, and act all for themselves.
And just listen to this quote from the paper's abstract. It really captures the sheer ambition of this project. This wasn't just about making a character walk from point A to point B. This was about simulating the very fabric of daily life, from the boring, mundane stuff to the super complex social web that defines any community. And here it is. This is that world they built. Smallville has all the stuff a small town needs, right? Houses, a college, a park, a cafe. But what makes it truly special is that it's 25 inhabitants. Get this, they each started with just a single paragraph describing who they were. From that tiny little seed, they were just set loose to build their own lives.
Okay, so how on earth did they pull this off? Well, the magic isn't just about using a big, large language model. The real secret sauce is this totally new architecture they built around it. It's a super sophisticated system for memory, and that's the engine that drives all the believable behavior you see. So the whole architecture boils down to three core parts. First, the agents perceive what's going on around them, and they record everything they experience into something called a memory stream. Second, every so often, they stop and they reflect on these memories to form bigger, higher-level insights. And third, they use all of that, the memories and the reflections, to plan out what they're going to do and then, well, do it. Let's break each piece down.
All right, the absolute foundation, the bedrock of this entire system is the memory stream. Every single observation, every action, every conversation an agent has gets recorded in plain English. You can really just think of it as a super detailed, constantly updating digital diary for each agent that captures their entire life story.
But, having a massive diary is one thing. Being able to find the right entry when you actually need it, that's the real trick. So the system has this really clever retrieval process. Whenever an agent needs to decide what to do, it searches its memory and scores every memory based on three things. Recency, because what just happened is probably important. Importance, because a big fight is way more significant than, say, brushing your teeth. And relevance to whatever's happening right now. This is how the agent pulls up just the right memories to figure out its next move. Now, this next part, reflection, this is where it gets really mind-blowing. This is where the agents move beyond just remembering things.
Reflection is how they connect the dots. They look at all these raw memories, these little diary entries, and they synthesize them into bigger, more abstract thoughts. It's how an agent goes from just observing, I worked on my research project for 3 hours, to a genuine conclusion like, I am super dedicated to my research.
And this visual from the paper just explains it perfectly. It's like a tree of insights. The raw observations, the day-to-day stuff are like the leaves. The system then bundles those up into small insights, which are like the branches, and then it bundles those insights into even bigger, more abstract conclusions about who they are. That's the trunk of the tree. This is literally how these agents form a stable sense of identity and a real understanding of their world.
Okay, so our agents can remember stuff and they can think about it, but how do they actually do anything? Well, they use this top-down planning process. They start with a really broad plan for the day, like go to class, work on project. Then they break that down into hour-by-hour chunks. And finally, they break those hourly chunks down into tiny little actions for the next 5 to 15 minutes. This whole process makes sure their behavior makes sense over the long term, but is still super flexible in the moment.
So that's the how in a nutshell. But the billion-dollar question is, did it actually work? Let's jump back into Smallville and see what happened when these 25 agents, powered by this new kind of digital mind, were just left to their own devices.
Let's follow one of these agents, John Lynn, through a typical morning. He wakes up, he does his morning routine, he chats with his wife and son, and then he heads off to work. And the incredible part? None of this was scripted, not one bit. Every single action was a result of his own plans, his own memories, and his own moment-to-moment decisions. It's just a totally believable, coherent sequence of behavior.
But what's even wilder is how the social stuff just happened. Information spread like gossip. Here, the agent Tom is sharing his opinion about Sam Moore, who's running for mayor. This opinion wasn't programmed into him. It formed because of conversations he had and things he observed, and then it just spread through the town's social network. You know, just like it would in the real world. But the researchers wanted to push it even further. They set up the ultimate test. They gave just one agent, Isabella, a simple idea. She wanted to throw a Valentine's Day party. That was it. The question was, could the rest of the agents, all on their own, actually coordinate something that complex?
And the answer? A huge, resounding yes. It totally worked. From that one single seed of an idea, the agents started spreading the word all on their own. They invited each other, they made plans to go together. One agent even asked another out on a date to the party. And on Valentine's Day, they all showed up at the right time and place. This was the ultimate proof of emergent social coordination. It was incredible.
Look, this experiment wasn't just some cool tech demo. It established a blueprint for building believable AI, and its influence is still being felt all across the field today. So let's talk about its lasting legacy. When you boil it all down, this paper gave us 4 huge things. It introduced a completely new architecture for memory and reflection that makes agents believable over time. It proved that really complex social behaviors can just emerge from simple building blocks. It showed for the first time that these agents could coordinate complicated events. And, maybe most importantly, it gave all of us a blueprint for creating more believable virtual worlds.
And for anyone out there building with AI today, the lessons here are more important than ever. First, memory is everything. This architecture is basically the direct ancestor of the memory systems you see in tons of modern agent frameworks. Second, you have to design for emergence. Stop trying to script every little action. The most powerful behaviors are the ones you didn't see coming. Third, natural language is an incredibly powerful tool, not just for the AI to talk to us, but for us to observe and guide the AI. And finally, simulations like Smallville are an invaluable way to test how complex systems of agents will actually behave in the real world.
The Generative Agents paper really just blew the doors open to a whole new world of possibilities. It proved that we can create these simulations of human behavior that are not only believable, but are also capable of these complex, emergent social dynamics. And it leaves us with this massive question, right? If we can simulate a believable digital society in a sandbox, what is the next step in creating truly autonomous AI that can operate out here in our world?
This is for entertainment purposes only.